Oak Island Town Hall Council meeting, public hearing and regular meeting is now called to order, February 19th, 2019. Gosh, what a crowd. Looks great. Hope we have a spirited conversation tonight. I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for coming. And hopefully tonight we can have some resolution to some of the things that have been on the plate of the council for several years now. At this time, we ask Councilman Baylock to give the opening prayer and the benediction and the pledge of allegiance, please. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, as we come together tonight, please bless us and help us to make the decisions that are best for the community and the wisdom to understand when we disagree. In the Lord's name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Blaylock. Before we get started into the regular part of the agenda, I'd like to just say that last week we lost three very important members, and all our residents are important members, but these were some that came to a lot of meetings. And one was Miss Mary Brewer. I'm not sure if any of you knew her, but she used to sit over here, and she was a good woman, and I'm going to miss her. Also, we lost another gentleman named Bob Racine, and another gentleman named Mr. Ben Brooks, who was the superintendent of schools in Brunswick County for many years. So I'd just like to take one moment of silence, if y'all don't mind, and bow our heads and just let them know we wish they were here. Thank you for indulging me in that. Tonight we have the one public hearing, and it's for the purpose of the public hearing is to receive citizens' comments on proposed amendments to Section -2-15 of the UDO. It's part of the height limit ordinance. Jake, you're probably after. Do we have anybody sign up, Lisa?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry.
Helen Cashwell.
Welcome, Ms. Caswell. We have a 3-minute limit, just like everything else. Say welcome. Come on. Yes, ma'am.
It's not quite saturated.
Oh, okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Helen Cashwell. I reside at 3407 East Yacht. This public hearing is an end around of the height limit that was established by the state of North Carolina and has been jealously protected by the citizens of Yaupon, Long Beach, and after the merger of the two towns, Oak Island. Citizens have repeatedly voiced in many ways they do not want that height limit changed. More importantly, it's a way to protect Lucas Cove. This is after the facts, since the developer has already built a structure that is 52 feet high in a 35-foot zone. It has heated space, 12 by 12 size, and definitely, once approved, it could be used as an additional room. Who's to know? Passing this ordinance tonight will only prove what citizens will openly express, that corruption of rules exists at all levels for a favored few. When did Development Services leave protection of our ordinances as they exist, not only in the land use plan, but the new UDO, to a staff member who has tried to take enforcement and approval from the council and give that power, as you will read in your UDO, to the administrator of the UDO in Development Services? Think about that. Council should view this public hearing as a challenge to their authority to enforce all ordinances within the town limits. If this passes, it will be a precedent for all, not only Lucas Coves, but as well as the entire town to have a structure above the rooftops and exceeding the height limits. When Shannon Fire Station was built, there was a cupola that was challenged by the citizens then on its roof. It exceeded the 35-foot limit and was justified by the council as a way for the fire department to drain their hoses. But I'm not sure when it was removed because it no longer exists today. Council, please do not pass this public hearing tonight. Sanction development services for permitting the building of the existing structure and rule the developer of Lucas Cove to bring the building under code. Only by taking this action will you prove to the citizens of this town that fairness does exist.
Thank you, Ms. Caswell.
Betty Hupp.
Betty Hupp. I live at 7916 East Yacht Drive. I cannot speak nearly so well as Mrs. Cashwell did. She spoke eloquently and said what should be done. But I want to say that for over a year, we who live on this island worked to get our Unified Development Ordinance, the height limit 41 feet waterside and 35 feet inland. Not at any time did anyone who sat then on the city council or sits now on the city council say anything at all that there might be a way to circumvent that. Not at any time did anyone who did work in any office of our city government or at anyone who now works in our city government say that building anything higher than 41 feet was or is legal. Even before the UDO, height was either 41 feet or 35 feet. And by the way, 3,999 square feet, not 4,000. A room with windows is being built higher than 41 feet, actually 52 feet. Who allowed this? And this is wrong. Thank you.
That's all I had signed up.
That's it? Okay. All right. This time I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing number 1, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Sorry, Chief. I overstepped. All right, we can take action on this particular issue tonight. I think I'm going to open the floor with Councilman Weinkoff.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
I would recommend, based on some information provided to me, Madam Mayor, that we take the matter up in closed session where I could give you some where I could provide legal advice to the council.
Okay. Well, with the recommendation of our attorney, we will table that to a closed session.
May I ask, Madam Mayor, is the information confidential? Why is it?
It's concerning potential litigation.
Fair enough.
That will be the ground stated for that item, Councilmember Bach.
Thank you.
You can go into closed session? All right, Brian, we're going to go into closed session now so these folks can hear when we come out and they don't get tired and go home because we do want you to know.
Madam Clerk, do we need to suspend the rules to rearrange the agenda?
I don't believe so.
Do you need a
Because the closed
motion for
session is
that?
already on the agenda, so we didn't take action to adopt it yet.
Or just, okay.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss potential litigation.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please. Thank you. We'll be back. This time I'll call the meeting back to order and continue our discussion on public hearing and the UDO.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to revise our ordinance that we have in place and that we remove from our ordinance of exceptions towers, comma, observation towers, comma, domes, effective immediately.
Before I second that motion, I'd like to discuss the importance of having codified decisions, especially in a referendum by the voters, be respected in an unwavering way. And so after your motion is passed, I will propose a motion to send staff back and come up with a more stringent ordinance which eliminates all possible exceptions going beyond what we have here as permitted by law. So that our defense of 41 feet is as robust as it can be.
So we have two motions on the
So
table.
no, he hasn't made the motion. We have Jeff's motion, but no second.
Not made it yet. I intend to make that. I seconded Jeff's.
Second?
Yes.
All in favor of Councilman Weinkauf's motion? Unanimous? Now, Mr. Bach, floor to you.
I would like to propose that staff re-examine the ordinance just passed and continue to effectively defend the 41-foot rule by removing all possible exceptions in a legal manner.
And 35-foot rule.
Yes, 35-foot rule as well.
Second.
All in favor, please. Unanimous. Do we need to clarify anything?
Well,
Mr.
if you wanted to ask Mr. Edwards what the effect of removing towers and observation towers would be from the exemptions, maybe that might help the public understand the action.
Steve, you
just
want to
took.
come up to the, thank you.
No, he's happy that I put him on the spot, Madam Mayor.
Always, Madam Mayor,
Hey,
Council. By removing the exceptions that will stop any future development of towers that would exceed the roof height and keep the 41-foot and 35-foot height as the referendum was originally intended for.
So for clarification, there will be no allowed above a 41-foot period, end of story, and the tires and all that would be removed.
With tonight's ordinance, it would restrict the observation towers and towers exceeding those building heights in that 35 and 41-foot zone. And as directed by council, staff will take and review all exceptions and bring back to you a new proposed ordinance that will eliminate any unnecessary items that would, or structures to exceed a building height.
Any more questions from council?
Steve, just, again, not to put you on the spot, but under the old rules, which were more generous, there were exceptions, and now under the UDO, there's still exceptions. How many exceptions are there? Just give me a number.
Oh, over a dozen exceptions.
Okay. So, again, the sense of my motion is remove them all if you possibly can, as many as possible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Everybody good with that? All right, we're going to move on to the presentations, and I'd like to welcome the president of the Beautification Committee, Ms. Deb Foss. I don't see you, Deb. Oh, there you are. Welcome.
I think Betty Hupp's going to introduce her.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, somebody forgot to tell me that. Ms. Huff, would you like to introduce her? Welcome.
I'm Betty Hupp. I live at 7916 East Yacht Drive. I've had a much happier moment. I joined the Oak Island Beautification Club in July of 1995 when we moved down just so I could play in the dirt at the Triangle, which is at the stoplight on Country Club Drive. It has fallen into disrepair. But it's with pleasure that I introduce you all to our president, Deborah Faust, who has worked diligently and wants to talk with you all about what we can do at the Triangle. And it's my pleasure.
Thank you, Ms. Huff.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. As I had stated at the last meeting, we've taken care of the Triangle, which is the intersection of Country Club Drive and Oak Island Drive, for the last 30 years. It's now time to revamp. At this point in time, with the bridge being closed, we would like to move forward with our plans and would like for you all to approve them so we can then forward them to the state. The state is awaiting a decision in our plans so they can approve it. What we would like to do is put in a fountain at the intersection, and it's approximately 5 feet tall, and the widest part is 3 feet. I have a gentleman that would install it for us and help us during the winter with it. The monies for the fountain has been available for at least 5 years now. A woman is donating the funds in honor of her husband. That was one of his last requests. The concern that the state will have is sight lines. And as you can see, we've taken pictures with the thanks to town manager of where this fountain would be placed at the southeast corner of Country Club Drive and Oak Island Drive. Not being any taller than 5 feet, there shouldn't be a sight issue, as you can see by these pictures. There's an example of one.
Didn't have nothing else.
How tall are you, David?
So it's much shorter
That's
than
an
that.
ugly fountain there.
That's 5 by 3 feet if I've ever seen it.
Thank you, David Kelly, for your help the other day in getting these pictures and the idea for you all to see what we have in mind. And then we have new plantings, of course, and they'll fall within the parameters of the state. So I think I've covered everything. We would like a vote and approval so we can submit this to the state.
Basically what this is they cannot apply for the DOT encroachment. The town has to apply. So they came to us and presented these things to us, and we brought them in front of y'all to ask for approval to go ahead and give them the authorization for us to apply on their behalf. We've talked with the DOT about liabilities. Once the encroachment's approved, DOT accepts the responsibility, so it doesn't fall back onto the town. They asked us to verify the line of sights and things that she talked about, so that's why we did the drawings and the pictures and those things so people could see. And talking with Chad and Daniel, I don't believe there's going to be a problem with it. They were just wanting to make sure that the town of Oak Island was willing to apply on their behalf.
Okay, thank you, David. And just for your information, council, the lady that is donating this is a very sincere person, and this was her husband's last wish. They did own property on Oak Island and Caswell Beach. She lives at Caswell Beach now, and this is her goal to see it done before something happens.
Right.
And she's very sincere. And her
Betty and
husband
I
was
were
too.
able to meet with her, and she's anxious to get this done.
The other thing was, it's got to be at the Triangle of Nowhere.
Yeah. Money
Yeah,
needs to be
basically,
spent
yeah.
there.
And
Yeah.
that's why, and it's just a pleasure to even go to see her and to try to get this done.
I have had that pleasure with Cindy when she was the president, and appreciate your efforts, and thank you for working on it and getting it through. All right, council, does anyone would like to make a motion to approve? David, what kind of motion do you want on that?
Just give me authorization to go ahead and apply for the encroachment.
Well, I think maybe a formal motion.
Consensus or?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, make a motion to direct town staff and the town manager to get up with the DOT and make this happen.
Second.
Second, all in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
I only have one concern. From looking at the pictures, that it seems to attract a certain type of individual.
What?
Sorry, Dick, couldn't help it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, a fun part of the evening is presentations from the paid parking folks. I don't know who's going first. You want to raise your hand? NC Parking?
Lanier Park.
Lanier? Okay. Welcome. Sorry, I can't introduce you. They didn't give you your names.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, town. My name is Isaiah Mao. I'm a senior vice president with Lanier Parking Solutions. I work in our municipal division. I'm based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but my in-laws are from New Hanover County, so I spend a lot of time in the area, a little too much time with the in-laws, if you ask me. But I hope she's not watching, but no, I love the area, love your beaches, love what you guys got going on here. And before we go any further, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all. You have some fine parking companies here in the room, and we're happy to be amongst them. This here is Tina Reed.
I'm Tina Reed. I am the Region Vice President for Lanier Parking, and I oversee North and South Carolina. Based out of Greenville, South Carolina, but I'm in this region about 3 weeks out of every month, so I'm here very often. So again, we appreciate the opportunity.
Go to the next slide. And as stated, we are Lanier Parking. So we are a boutique firm with national resources. We are in over 1,100 locations, over 30 states, and have about 7,000 employees. But I think more pertinent to you all is two things. Number one, we have a municipal vertical, so we specialize in helping towns and cities manage paid parking programs, implement paid parking programs. And secondly is our local presence. So we have a headquarters, we're headquartered in Atlanta, but we have some district offices here in the Carolinas. We're the leader for municipal parking programs here in the Carolinas. So Tina's going to talk a little bit about our presence here in the Carolinas. Thank you.
Lanier Parking, we are a leading parking provider in the coastal communities. We have a lot of operations, and we're all the way from Beaufort, North Carolina, down to Folly Beach, South Carolina, with everything in between. We currently operate Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Surfside Beach, South Carolina, Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, as well as downtown Wilmington. So we have a lot of experience in coastal and seasonal operations. And we're proud to say that we are one of the leading operators in those type of operations.
And many of which we implemented paid parking from the get-go. We put in the first meter and been there ever since.
Yeah, and we do a lot with bringing paid parking from a non-paid environment to a paid parking environment, where we work with the council, and we want to be an extension of your operation and how you see it and how the community sees the operation. So we're always in a scenario to where we will always come to you with suggestions and recommendations, and you be the ones that make those decisions and how to best do for the community. As far as our staffing of what we do with our staff, we like to promote internally. And so we use a lot of our employees that were within our other regions, and we like to give them opportunities for advancement. So they have experience already in the coastal environments and the seasonal operations, and as well as hiring locally. So we like to make sure that we give those type of employees all the opportunities that there are to stay in the region and to advance their careers. We do believe that we like to be invested in the community. Most recently with the Hurricane Florence that we had coming through, we were able to do a fundraiser for the town of Wrightsville Beach, and being able to support those environments and those communities when the time came. Now I'll turn it over to Isaiah.
So I'll talk a little bit about our proposed plan. You guys have read the proposal, but just a quick overview. So implementing paid parking is not something to do haphazardly. Okay, so you're going to want to partner with the company who's done this before, like we have, as we said, in many of these locations. To us, from our experience, it comes down to two things. I think it comes down to communication and transparency. So we put together a whole stakeholder engagement plan where we want to meet with residents, with business owners, with the ADA community, with just different departments to make sure we're hearing the challenges and issues they're facing, so that we can put together a plan that does the best to try to address all the different stakeholders and still meet the goals of the town. Okay? That's why we propose things like the town hall meeting strategies, the website, the branding, and the signage package that we put together. We agree with what the RFP proposed as far as rates, with the $2 per hour and the season from March 1st to October 31st and the hours of operation. We based our numbers off of that. And as far as how we were going to charge for that, we put a lot of thought into that. We liked the website. It described Oak Island as a family-friendly beach community with a small-town atmosphere, so we thought a lot about that. So we wanted to put in paid parking that's easy to use, that's convenient, that's customer-friendly. That's why we went with Parkeon. It's a company that provides the largest provider of pay stations in the United States. We use them in Wrightsville Beach, Myrtle Beach, Surfside Beach, so a lot of we hope a lot of your customers will be familiar with it already. And more importantly, we also partnered with a company called Pay by Phone to allow people to pay by their phone. They can pay with an app while they're in their car or at their beach. And the beauty of it is they get reminders. So if they're at the beach with the family having a good time and they'll get a text that says your parking is about to expire. Do you want to add time? They can do that right there on the beach and not have to walk back to their pay station. We also, no matter how customer friendly or convenient we make it, there's still going to be people that do not pay or do not park correctly. So we had to think of an enforcement solution. So we do that in all our cities. I like the RFP described it, soup to nuts. That's what we do. We do write the parking tickets, collect the money, mail out the letters, work with the DMVs in-state and out-state to ensure that people get reminders to pay their parking tickets. And in addition, we proposed, to show we put some skin in the game, we proposed over $50,000 on our dime, not ours, but our company's, that we're going to provide some vehicles to the town at no cost to you all. So this includes a truck for collections and maintenance, and vehicles for enforcement and different things like that. And also with the pay-by-phone solution, we can also sell permits for residents and have different rates for residents or visitors or whatever, to make sure, again, that we're addressing the needs of the community. And as far as staffing and how we train and our enforcement solution, Tina's going to talk a little bit about that.
In our proposal, we suggested that your operation would need a full-time year-round manager. We feel that that would be the best for this type of operation. And in season, we would recommend that there would be an assistant manager as well as a couple enforcement ambassadors. We like to call our guys ambassadors because that's what they truly are. That's how they're trained initially, is to always be an ambassador for your town. They need to make sure that they have the brochures, they know where parking is, they know where the restaurants are, that they answer the questions for your patrons so that they can direct them as to the best solutions that they need. We also recommended a part-time parking clerk so that person would be in the office to answer phone calls, assist people that come in person, and that also we would have a full-time seasonal meter tech collections person. So that person would be responsible for ensuring that all the equipment is up and running appropriately and repairing anything, and as part of our two-team collections process. All of our employees do go through a training process through our corporate HR director does come to the area and does a full-on employee training, as well as we do an on-site training, making sure that everyone knows the area, making sure they know all the rules and the regulations, so that everybody's on the same page. Turn it over to Isaiah to finish.
And so one of the best things about the paid parking program, it's more than just revenue. We're doing things like safety, issuing tickets to people parking in crosswalks or on sidewalks or in the handicap spaces when they shouldn't be. But there is revenue coming in. We projected over $330,000 in net profits, and we do this in all the cities around here and towns around here, so we feel pretty confident in our numbers. But that's revenue that can go back into the town, hopefully, whether it's beach renourishment or beautification or economic development. That's really something to consider about the paid parking program. As for how we make our money, we're just proposing a flat management fee of $2,600 per month. Okay, so that's how we make our money, plus a 3% of the meter revenues. We intentionally did not want a percentage of the citation revenue because we don't want to be known as the more tickets we write, the more money we make. So that's going to be separate. We would take a percentage because our goal is to get people to pay the meters. That's all we want. That's going to help the town with their goals. With that being said, just in closing, we'll be mindful of the 10-minute time. Just want to say that we feel Lanier is a great choice. We love to do business with you. We have unmatched experience in this area, and I think unparalleled, things we talk about, our plan, customer service training, and ambassador program that we're wanting and hoping to put together. We did address some of your questions and handed them out to you guys already, so we may have answered the questions, but at this time, if there's any other questions for the council.
Okay, council, the floor is yours. Let's start on this end.
Thank you, first of all, for your taking the time to put together such a thoughtful presentation and actually to come in person. Appreciate that. And you mentioned your numbers. So you're projecting a gross revenue of $693,270, expenditures at $364, and a net profit of I have it at $329. So just want the public to know those are the numbers we're talking about here. I read your proposal as saying there would be 8 staff members involved, 6 full-time, 2 part-time. Is that correct?
Not including the manager, there was 6.
But
the only one that would be full-time year-round would be the manager. Everyone else would either be a full-time seasonal or a part-time seasonal.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying this, because as you well know, we're about to compare proposals. So staffing levels and the cost associated and/or the service provided are a consideration. So I want to start with your calculation. So between these two proposals, on the expense side, there's, maybe a car length, so roughly 60,000. But on the revenue side, there's a considerable difference. So it leads me to, if you could walk me through how did you do the calculation? Because your calculation for revenue is lower than your competitor. So.
Yeah, so and ours is a conservative number, but we do this in every, I can't express that, every nearby city, and we have a proprietary calculation that we use. We know the value of each space in all our nearby cities, so we know in a given space how much revenue that will bring in based on certain factors. And we use that and we compared it to our other 7 locations in the area and feel pretty confident that's the numbers we're going to see. We could have came in here and said, oh, we're going to bring in 10 million, but we wanted to, again, transparency, that's our belief, and we feel those numbers are what the town is.
So what I hear you saying is you benchmark it against your other operations, and you've got probably a margin on either side of that, right?
Yes.
So what I'm going to say is you're $200,000 different from your competitor, so that's why I'm asking the question, because now I'm driving a truck through that gap.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough.
Can I say one more thing, Kelvin?
You may.
So the other thing is, we're only going to charge for what we spend. So if we have office supplies of $2,000 for the year, and we only spend $100, the town's only going to get charged for $100. So we're not charging for everything. We only charge what we spend. Same way with the revenue. If we get in here and double revenues than what we projected, I'd be so happy, and that all goes to the town. It's not like, I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying. There's no guarantees releases. We just feel that the numbers we projected are what the town is expected to make in year 1.
Okay. Let's talk about, and you mentioned something in your presentation that I think is evident in the hard copy here. So I looked at the what you call the branding program, if you will, and then there's a real emphasis on service and identification. And I think you're right. That's going to be very, very important. And you mentioned community engagement and transparency. I'm wondering, since you've done this before, what are the sort of reoccurring issues that you run into when you're trying to install paid parking for the first time? What can we anticipate you're going to be grappling with?
Sure. It always comes down to, I think, communication. That's what we talked about. So I think it's different here. It could be a lot of the towns that I've put in paid parking, it's more in a downtown business district with businesses, and the fear is that the parking is going to drive people away, that the meters are going to stop people from coming downtown. And usually we're able to show just from case studies. We have case studies after case study of meters went in, business went up. Why? Because employees are parking all day long in certain areas. There's no places for customers to come. Putting in the paid parking helps that turnover, helps create more spaces. Here it's a little different because it's more of the long-term beach parking, but I think it's going to help with traffic and pedestrian, because you got a lot of cars kind of, that's what we were doing when on a couple of our site surveys. Is there a lot there? Is that a lot? Is that price? So it's having that signage and putting in that paid parking program will help put people in there in the parking spaces faster, which will eliminate congestion, pollution, and traffic. But again, it just comes down to stakeholder engagement. It's the communication, letting people know why the town's doing this, what are the goals, where's the money going. I think if you have all that and we're visible and we're transparent, that's going to help with the most common challenges, which are communication and confusion and where's the money going, who's doing what.
Last question. If we entered into a relationship and let's say it blossomed, became a longer-term relationship, one of the things that struck me in reading this proposal is the idea of alternative transportation systems, because as you know, we have a mainland portion which is eventually going to grow quite rapidly. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of a think tank capacity you have for alternative transportation? Because at some point, we're going to run out of 1,100 parking spaces. That's pretty clear. So what are the alternatives you guys are working on?
Sure, we have our own department actually dedicated to that, about mobility and TDM, transportation demand management. And you're right, at one day the parking's not going to be enough, and it's thinking about other solutions to get people to where they need to go. We partner with bike sharing, we partner with dockless scooters and dockless and bicycle, with Uber and Lyft changing, working with working to find, drop-off spaces convenient for people. So it's something we think about a lot. In fact, our ownership has some buy-in in some of these companies, so it's something that's coming and something that we're prepared to handle for the town in the future.
So, I'm sorry, I'm going to end. If we engaged with you and at some point the next council said, okay, we want an alternative transportation plan for 2024 when we know we're going to have 5,000 additional residents off the island, that's something you can create. So I'm hearing you say, yes, we can do that. Thank you.
Councilman Bob, thank you.
I have two questions.
Any questions, any further questions for Lanier? I do have a question. How many year contract, how many years are you proposing in your contract?
I think that was provided in the RFP. I think it was either 3-year contract with with the 1 2-year option that's usually common.
Yeah.
Or is that negotiable?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I have one concern. My major concern is, I'll tell you right off the bat, that I didn't like the idea.
Sure.
Okay? Because I'm former law enforcement and I know how complicated things can get. But logistically, isn't this a nightmare for you because of the way the town is laid out with all these street ends and everything? Like you were saying, you have a downtown area, which makes it fairly simple to monitor, but isn't this going to be a real problem for you with the length of this, the way it's laid out?
Yeah, I think when we budgeted for that, we had a higher gas expense and vehicle, but isn't it similar to Folly Beach and Wrightsville Beach?
In comparison to some of our other locations, Myrtle Beach, which is all the way from North Myrtle Beach to South Myrtle Beach and into Surfside, we handle that, with vehicles, with golf carts. We even have ambassadors on bicycles. So we break it into sections so that it's more manageable, so you're not sending out an enforcement ambassador to say, go enforce the island. You break it into sections, and then that way you're able to do section north, section south, those kinds of things, so then that way it's more manageable and you can keep it more in line.
Is your program advanced to the point where if we had an event, say a farmer's market or perhaps a big event that the town hosts every year, is there a way that you can code into your meters that this is free parking for that day?
Absolutely.
Is it that flexible?
We can change the rates if you want to charge more or charge less or make it free. We propose some holidays.
Yeah. The equipment has a back-of-house software system, so then we're able to go in and make those changes according to those parameters and be able to push them out into those machines.
And that's
Is there a cost to the town for each one of those changes that you make per day?
No, ma'am, 'cause, yeah.
And that's the beauty of the management instead of a lease, where we don't want to be some big corporate company coming in charging whatever rates, and we want you guys to control rates and control decisions, and we just get our flat rate monthly fee.
Yeah. One more from me. How do you explain to the council, how do you set that into your back end to where I think there has been some chatter about veterans parking free. How does your machines know? Is there a way to control that kind of thing, like residents parking and free handicap and free veterans?
Sure. So it's all in the cloud. So we would, through our pay-by-phone solution, they have a permit system. Mm-hmm. So residents can apply. They put in their plate number. When we can either give them a permit or do it virtually, where we put in our handheld. When we go to issue that a ticket, it'll pop up and say, "Do not ticket. This is the mayor." So we can do things.
That's not a good example.
I'm saying. That the answer you were looking for? I know. This is a veteran. Do not ticket. Yeah. We can do stuff like that.
So we do have. It sounds like a lot of flexibility. So it's just a matter of getting the logistics straight. If town council decides to. Any more questions?
One more. I got one. The workforce I know is getting thin. Have y'all had problems hiring people?
We've had some creative solutions. And I'll tell you
that was a yes, Jeff.
Recently, we have started working with Veterans in Parking Program, and where we're trying to hire a lot more veterans because we find them to be,
especially in this area.
Yeah, especially in this area, to be very reliable, and they need, their needs meet our needs as well. So that's been a very positive environment for us in some other regions. So yes, workforce is always a challenge in finding that most appropriate person. I will say that at most all of our coastal locations where we're at right now, we are fully staffed with no issues.
Yep.
Now, will that change tomorrow? Who knows? But as of right now, we are fully staffed and on board with all operations. And we do a lot of job fairs. We do a lot of, pushing Facebook ads and doing a whole social media bit, advertising that, and going to local colleges and pulling those people and such too. So we have a lot of resources to pull from.
Not that we proposed a competitive rate, because
Yeah.
we want more than people riding parking tickets and get yelled at. We want to create customer service ambassadors that represent the town, and we think we can get good quality people in those rates. So.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for Lanier? Thank you so much. Very informative. Do we have anyone from NC Parking?
Yes.
Are you available to stay around both companies till we get to that part in the agenda? If there's more. Okay, thank you. Welcome, gentlemen. If you'd introduce yourself.
My name is Dan McNutt. I'm the CEO of NC Parking Co. We appreciate the opportunity to come here and present tonight, Madam Mayor, the council, and citizens of Oak Island. We've certainly been looking forward to having this opportunity to come and share with you a little bit more about our parking management proposal and some of the ways that we're confident we can bring value through our operational experience to your paid parking initiatives. The Parking Management Services Project demands a team capable of successfully delivering profitable paid parking to the town while maintaining high levels of visitor and resident satisfaction. NC Parking Co. is a full-service company specializing in delivering strong revenue streams and unsurpassed user experience, as well as in-person enforcement and state-of-the-art parking technology. We feel strongly that our team brings a unique set of qualifications to the table, and we are thrilled to be considered for such an esteemed project. Additionally, we want to stress that all terms proposed are open to negotiation, and we look forward to, continuing discussions as we move forward.
Sorry.
You want to go to the next slide? So NC Parking Co. is the North Carolina arm of a national conglomerate headed by UPP Global, whose corporate offices are based in Portland, Maine. We started our business in New England, and we've grown now into 9 states nationally at over 250 locations. For the Oak Island project, UPP Global will operate locally and be publicly accessible during seasonal hours. All support functions such as accounting, administrative support, and 24/7 customer support. Telephone lines will be provided out of our corporate offices located in Portland, Maine. We do have a significant amount of local operational experience now. We've been operating in New Hanover County for going into our 3rd year now, with a significant presence in Wilmington, and along the, we've got some operations in Carolina Beach, the city of Raleigh, Myrtle Beach as well. We've got a great local management team that's also headed by our company COO, Archer Chappell.
Go back.
All right, so very similar to the previous presentation, we also have a lot of experience with rolling out paid parking to new markets. We've really built a company that's been very focused on tourism-driven markets. So we've really developed an expertise in that, and we've had an opportunity to bring paid parking systems to many, smaller seasonal driven communities, very similar to Oak Island. you know, we understand the importance of the educational rollout, the communication with the community, the communication with the city, with the municipal, you know, department heads, and really bring a you know, really detailed educational approach so that when it, you know, as the operations start, everybody's comfortable with it, and you know, everybody has the necessary information. We are proposing a revenue split approach. We prefer to, you know, earn our fees through performance. So also with our operational experience in this North Carolina market, we feel very confident that our revenue projections are very in line with what the realities of you know, what will be generated through the available space here in Oak Island, and we are confident enough in our projections that we are making a base minimum guarantee of a minimum of $400,000 to the city of Oak Island, in addition to the operational expenses, and also bringing the full package of all the equipment and paid, you know, the whole paid parking system. So I'm going to have Asher Chapel kind of touch on that.
I'm Asher Chapel, the COO of NC Parker Co. and its parent company, UPP Global. So our approach is going to be a two-pronged approach. Although we love technology, we love the new phone apps, but not everybody has them. We feel as though to see the maximum return on, if the town of Oak Island is going to pursue this, it needs to be done correctly. It needs to be done with thought. So we feel as though an equipment meters should be installed at predetermined locations up and down the shore, just to really maximize the visibility and the utilization of the system. So the goal isn't to enforce and ticket everyone that comes to the beach that doesn't understand exactly what to do because they missed a sign. So we try to manage through redundancy. We don't like to oversign locations, but if they are placed properly in the correct locations, it's very easy for new folks coming in that have never really been here before. If they're new, if they come in July or whenever, the system guides them to what they need to do. If they are a resident parker, they'll have a parking pass. They won't need to pay. But if you are not from Oak Island, you will. So therefore, it's still going to reflect on Oak Island if it's all anybody does is receive tickets. So our goal is to push as many people as we can through to the meters, and either A, the meters, or B, through our phone app. So we partnered with a company called Passport. They're a local North Carolina company based in Charlotte. They are one of the leaders in the industry for mobile paid parking. And we feel as though the equipment, the hardware that we're going to install on the property, as well as the mobile app, really lends itself to a user-friendly approach. Now, to second that, we also believe that a solar-powered approach is the best. That allows for the least amount of impact to the property. There's no need to dig or install concrete bases. We utilize a portable base system, so that installs the equipment onto it. It can be color-coded or to whatever the city or town or decides they'd like to do, whatever color scheme you have. So we feel as though by providing both of those options, it will give the residents and the folks coming to visit the town beaches with the best possible option.
And again, our approach with that is to bring the entire package. So we cover the initial upfront cost of 100% of the infrastructure. And then, of course, you know, we have just pass-through expense on those items on a monthly basis that we've shown you guys in the budget.
Yeah. To go back to the meters too, we really try to rebrand everything so it fits, so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, we can customize the color of the portable bases, even the meters themselves. And then, of course, we would ultimately work with the city to design and customize an appropriate sign package as well, providing direction at the sites to how the equipment's used. And additionally, through our staffing performers and staffing guide that we provided in the proposal, you will see that we have a strong presence of parking ambassadors, as we also refer to them, providing direction for folks and assisting with the operations on a daily basis. Again, we certainly do not bring a heavy-handed approach regarding enforcement. We prefer to set up the right system, provide education, and we never look at enforcement as a means to generate significant revenue. And in fact, we do everything we can to minimize those enforcement incidents as much as we can. So.
I can speak to the permitting as well. So on top of the paid parking aspect of this, there is the permitting that's going to take place for the town residents. It's going to be, we feel as though it should really work for everybody, and there are a lot of residents that live here year-round, and there are also folks that have rental units, so we want to design a plan that works for everybody by utilizing Passport's permit management system as well. That will feed in directly into the enforcement. Town resident or realty company that has rental properties can load in their tenants' vehicle information, so when they arrive on property, they'll be able to utilize their vehicle simply by driving to the beach. There won't need to be any additional permits handed out or costs associated with this. Now, town residents will be able to update their own accounts. Each person will have their own individual logins. They'll be able to update. They got a new vehicle. They can just simply update the vehicle information. The license plate will stay the same, but that will allow the enforcement personnel and the ambassadors to really work with the vehicles in the town through whether it's the veterans plates or anyone that is given or granted or discounted parking through the permit system.
So kind of going back to our projected revenues and our projected expenses, what you find with our proposal is a very transparent pass-through expenses regarding, payroll and all other kind of associated parking project expenses. You're not going to see any type of, fees that are not associated with actual functions that are going on site. So it's a very there's not a lot of fluff or added fees that end up ultimately contributing to the profitability of the operator. Again, regarding our proposed terms, we are extremely confident with our projected revenues. To the point that we are, making that guaranteed base minimum, which for the city, I think can be attractive. That's something that the city council and the citizens can take, to the bank on your annual budget. And the reality is, if we, if we are making a mistake on our projections and we don't know what we're talking about, then we're going to eat that, because we're guaranteeing the city of Oak Island, this base minimum. And we believe the reality is that we're going to make even more than that. And again, too, our proposal includes all of the costs of the infrastructure coming out of gross revenues before, we would ever make any profit as well. So that being said,
Again, thank you for preparing such a thoughtful presentation. Thank you for coming. Just for purposes of comparison, and we showed most of the numbers, but I read your proposal to say that you would have 2 full-time staff members, 3 part-time, plus a project manager. Is that correct? Correct. Right. And before we get into the numbers, which are quite good, but I've learned that when they're that good, one needs to explore a little further. I'm looking at what you propose to give us for free, and I'm kiosks, the software, wireless. So that's essentially $500,000 in free backbone. Is that right?
So I guess we're not using the word free, right? But we're bringing all of the infrastructure up front. And then in our original proposal and budget, and we provided some kind of a different means of.
Right, you're charging us.
Yeah, right, so
Okay.
the fees come out. So basically, per pay station, there's a monthly fee associated with that, which is being collected through the gross revenues and going towards the expense of the equipment.
Okay, so just for the purposes of clarification, especially since our esteemed attorney is here, when you say you guarantee this,
Yes, sir.
in writing,
In writing.
regardless of what numbers you generate?
Regardless of what numbers we generate. Again, when we tell you that we're confident with our revenue projections, we're extremely confident with our revenue projections, and that's why we're.
Okay. Let me go there for a second. Did you want to say something, Councilor?
Well, I would like to ask a question or two, if I may, but
Yeah.
along those lines, but.
Okay, let me just finish and I'll defer to you. We'll come back to you, sir. So your revenue projections, you're confident in them. How did you come up with them? You're more than $200,000 away from the other proposal. They benchmarked it. How did you do it?
Very similarly, we look to our coastal Carolina locations and again, going into our third year of operational experience. Additionally, we have really built a business that is focused on tourism-driven markets and are extremely active all along the eastern seaboard. So it's not even just our knowledge of the North Carolina market, which is strong. We understand seasonal and tourism trends, and we understand what the market will yield.
Okay, so let me ask the flip side of that question, which I think you implied for a moment. So let's say your numbers are dead bang on.
Sure.
In fact, they're probably, I would think if I were writing this proposal, I would shade that a little bit. So you're probably thinking you can make 1.3 million. And on a 75-25 split, that's a larger profit for you. So if that were to be the case in year 1 and 2 or year 1, are you still amenable to renegotiating that?
Most certainly, and we would be prepared to cap our earning potential, at a specific level. Again, our approach is as we're eager to begin to service seasonal municipalities like Oak Island, we looked at what the traditional approaches have been with the national companies that have been providing these services, and we wanted to put together an approach that was very different. And we've put a lot of thought into it, and we are very confident that we have the experience necessary to come up with these types of projections, and again, we would stand behind it.
Okay.
And again, too, we would cap ourselves, because you're certainly right. Like, our goal is going to be to, we consistently want to underpromise and overdeliver.
Yeah, well, I like your approach of, your fees are based on performance. And if you're right, there's probably a larger upside, and at some point, as we grow, I would certainly want the ability to renegotiate.
Most certainly, and we would,
Okay.
and we can even, in day one, set up either a capped, profit margin for ourselves, or even some type of a sliding scale where our percentage drops and drops and drops based on increased revenues. So.
Okay. I'm going to defer back to our attorney. I'm sorry, Brian, I just wanted to hear that.
Thank you, sir. Just to the extent that guarantee may be a factor, I just wanted to clarify a few things. Obviously, you're willing to put that in your contract if
Most
you're
certainly.
selected.
Yeah, we would be willing to we have bonding capacity.
Would you anticipate putting any conditions in there? I I mean, is it a flat guarantee or
It's a flat guarantee.
Okay.
We're
Unconditional.
making you a flat guarantee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into any of your other business relationships, but have you ever had to make good on a guarantee like that with another client before?
So we certainly, make good on all of our guarantees. One thing that we take a lot of pride in the 7 years that we've been in business, we've had a 100%, retention rate with our clients, and we have phenomenal relationships with all of them, and we make our payments. So we've got, obviously we operate under a number of different deal structures based on the nature of the client or the location, but we have a number of large, beach-driven or tourism-driven locations that are under significant leases, even much more significant than what we're guaranteeing the city of Oak Island now. We could certainly provide those references for you.
And you're willing in year one to put a cap?
Put a cap on our profitability, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. That's all I had.
But I'm going to finish, and then I'll go back to you, Madam Mayor. You may take the floor. So you mentioned your New Hanover experience. Are they in a similar arrangement, may I ask?
So our locations currently, we've got about 40 locations in between Wilmington, Raleigh, and Carolina Beach. It's privately owned locations that are primarily leased locations. So we have a fixed lease agreement. We go in, we approach those ownership groups and looked at what the properties had done historically and guaranteed them significantly more through a lease agreement. And so that's the nature of our deals.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit, well, actually, I'd like you to talk a little bit about how you would go about introducing your system to our community, what kind of steps you would take,
Certainly.
et cetera.
So, we have learned over the years about how important that is. So that's a major focus, specifically coming in in preparation of launching active operations. We would meet, our desire would be to meet directly with City Council and any and all municipal leaders to really educate all of you folks and those folks first, and then identify what the best strategy is for getting the message out to the community, and whether that be meeting with specific community groups or having open sessions, we would do that. And then obviously also having our staff presence here on the island and taking the necessary time to meet with folks individually and on an ongoing basis and kind of continued education. But we certainly understand the importance of that piece, and it's a major focus of ours.
And I know we asked you to back out certain items on the capital side.
Yes, sir.
And one of those was signage, right? So that you've backed that cost out.
We did. We backed everything out. So for the
Yeah, we submitted an updated budget today.
So basically,
All was backed out.
yeah, when you look at our original budget, we basically had a fixed number that's like a monthly cost for each individual station, which included signage, portable base, steel base, and the equipment itself.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but so you have complied. Okay. I'm happy to yield my time back, Madam Mayor.
Councilman Bell, any questions? Councilman Scott?
Should you be ready to go to next tourist season?
We would certainly, as a matter of fact, we brought our representative from the equipment company that we work with. We use what was formerly known as Cali America, which is one of the largest municipal providers in the country. And we have all of the necessary equipment ready to go. We could be active, by legitimately, mid-March or April 1st. And that's given ourselves a little bit of breathing room even. We could even be active quicker than that. What I would be willing to guarantee the city is if we had even if we had the opportunity for an April 1 start date, we would still guarantee that full base minimum, even if we lost, the operating time in March.
Yeah, we typically find that We usually keep a large amount of inventory in our warehouses, so we find that proofing signage and kind of presenting the approach and educational items to the towns and cities we work in usually takes the longest to bring kind of everybody up to speed, all of your stakeholders. Once you've really done that and you've educated everyone, we find that's the best time to roll out your system. And obviously, anytime anything is new, there's going to be some pushback from that. So as long as we can take as much time as the council needs and the townspeople need to really kind of educate everybody on the system, the approach, kind of how it's going to work from here until forever. We really like to do that, and so that typically usually is the longest.
From an infrastructure perspective, we are prepared with that. And so again, it would just be a matter of us developing a critical path with city council on the educational initiatives and customizing the signage and so on and so forth. So speaking to some of the questions earlier in the night as well, we certainly have experience with alternative transportation strategies and initiatives too, because literally almost every market that we work in is a very, very active tourism destination, and so we're constantly working on strategies and coming up with ways to make sure that everybody's getting to where they want to be when they're on vacation. We realize how important that is.
Yeah, and while increasing the experience. So we've rolled out electric vehicles at a lot of our properties to help transport folks to and from certain areas based on demand.
We offer free shuttle services and things of that nature. And, from a green perspective with electric gem cars or bike share and things of that nature.
Councilman Baylor?
Do you, how much do you rely on license plate numbers for your system?
So we believe the license plate, so our entire plan is going to be based on license plate, whether it's purchasing through the machine. We're going to ask patrons to input their license plate number. That will link it to their vehicle. If you're signing up for or paying through the app, you'll have all apps are phone-based. You could also do it space-based, but we feel as though to maximize revenues and really minimize mistakes, linking the payments to the license plates are the best course of action. The online permits will be linked to the license plates as well. So it also, by doing that, you can really maximize your revenues, because what we found in certain areas, people hand their tickets off to somebody else coming in behind them. So to guard against those sort of items, we believe in license plates.
Yeah, we are transitioning to pay by plate nationally, and have already begun that in most of our markets. Again, due to a lot of really beneficial factors, the ease of enforcement that we're able to practice through that function, and additionally, a big part of it is the reality that folks are specifically in tendency to pass off tickets and things of that nature, so you can increase the revenue significantly by not having by having that ticket in the system, and again also you're eliminating that paper aspect that a lot of those tickets and receipts have a way of finding themselves on the beach or blown around in the city of Oak Island, which isn't very pleasant for anybody.
The reason that I asked that question is because is there any type of system from a law enforcement standpoint where you could identify plates that, for instance, were wanted for one reason or another, involved in a crime, so forth and so on? Is that something that you guys do, or is that a whole different ballgame?
That's a different ballgame. I mean, we have basically the functionality of what we're doing is for that transaction at that moment. Folks that we do write a citation to, we have the ability to send a notice to those folks, but we're not really collecting any type of criminal background information or anything like that.
I mean, if we ran, I mean, so if someone didn't pay through the app or the meter, we would do a plate search on that vehicle. If it came back, you know, that there was a stolen car that wanted, and we were notified of that through our systems, which we would have the opportunity to be, we would pass that right along to law enforcement, yeah.
Councilman Weinkauf?
I've heard that your equipment's mobile and solar.
Correct.
If we had an approaching storm coming, do you have a plan put in place to be able to move the equipment?
Yes, sir, and as a matter of fact, we have a lot of experience with that. So again, we've got a very large presence in the state of Florida, and even all of our systems here in North and in South Carolina, where we actively are able to, you know, mobilize quickly and store the meters and the signage and get it out of harm's way when there's a pending storm, and then we're able to actively and quickly get the system back out and operational. And you know, we do that on an annual basis. I mean, it's just the reality of the markets that we operate in, and that's really been
unfortunately
a big focus of you know, the system that we've designed. So the portable bases are ADA compliant, and they, you know, we say they're portable, but they weigh about, you know, 500 or 600 pounds, and so they're not easily tampered with. We don't have issues with that. And then even when those storm events happen, we can leave the bases in place, just pull up the meters, store them quickly and easily, and then be back out. You know, we can come in and install 55 meters, which is what we're proposing, and you know, we can come into town and drop them all in place in a day, and then it's a matter of, you know, appropriately setting the signage up and everything else, but we can literally be active in a matter of a couple days with the entire system.
Okay. Good. Ask you the same question. Is your contract negotiable on the time frame?
Certainly.
How many years, whatever? Cause
we, you know, we're firm believers in earning the relationship through our, you know, through the credibility of our service. So we want to earn the right to work with the city of Oak Island, you know, on a daily basis. So, you know, we're not coming in and necessarily asking for a long-term contract. Obviously, our desire would be to have, you know, probably a 3-year deal to start. But we also would give you the right to terminate that deal if we're not doing what we said we're going to do and if we're not delivering on our commitments.
Veterans and event parking is flexible, like
Certainly.
as with Lanier?
Most certainly.
And you used the word meters. Could you clarify that? Because I thought they were kiosks.
The pay stations, meters.
Pay station,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
It's not a meter at each parking space.
No.
No.
We would have, what we've proposed is each site with 9 spaces or more would have a meter, a pay station. The larger lots would have multiple pay stations. Smaller lots, we would have the mobile app available. Or even if it's a smaller lot that's extremely busy, we have the ability to install equipment. Additionally, another thing that I wanted to touch on, because of the nature of our business model and the volume of equipment that we have, we will provide additional pay stations that we can bring out to city municipal field on the 4th of July and operate paid parking to maximize space that might not otherwise be, if that's something that the city is interested in. So we're very flexible in that regard. We can literally set up and put the system in place, for a weekend or whatever the case may be, and that wouldn't be an ongoing, monthly fee for that equipment. That would be stuff that we would have, for on hand as inventory that we would make available for those special events.
Okay. All right. Any more questions from council? Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll move on to the adjustment and the approval of the agenda. Does any council member need to remove something from the agenda? Any adjustments? Or add to the agenda? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second by Charlie, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to our public comments section of the agenda. Do we have speakers?
Yes, ma'am. Steve Johnston.
Please state your name, and you have 3-minute time limit.
My name's Steve Johnston. I live on Northwest 23rd. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. My concern is the paid parking as well. First, I would like to thank the first people for at least allowing us veterans to have an opportunity to work there, being a veteran and a law enforcement officer. I do appreciate that. But I do have some concerns. I haven't heard anything about a fine, how much it costs that you're going to charge these people if they go over the limit. Nobody stated that. I haven't heard that yet. $2 an hour flat rate. If I'm going to stay there all day, do I get a discount? If I'm going to stay there 10 hours, can I pay $15, or is it just, that's cut and dry? I do have some concerns about the portable machines, if they were installed. Not hard to tie a chain around them and drag them anywhere you want to if you want to break into them. So I would have some concerns about that. But the biggest thing that bothers me is I've heard both people talk about a cost to residents and property owners. But I've heard not how I've read that it wouldn't cost us anything. And now I'm hearing them say a fee for property owners, a discounted fee for veterans. I'm afraid I can't agree with that. I don't, with gentleman counsel, I'm not big on paid parking either. I know everybody wants to make money, but I don't believe it's a good idea to, I don't think it puts a good message over to visitors and people coming down to Oak Island. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Helen Cashwell.
Helen Cashwell, 3407 East Yacht Drive. I'm very vocal tonight. I would like to take this time to tell you, for the people who have never attended a budget meeting, they should. It was very interesting. I think it gives you confidence in your town council. This one this year was particularly interesting. Understand this, there are no free lunches. I would also like to thank you at this time for the police department and their efforts. It certainly has made a difference in the speed on our streets. I can feel the atmosphere that we seem to be being watched over. So I would like to take time to thank you all for that. It's been very good. I was also encouraged to see the efforts to clear up the terrible water problem on 11th Street and Oak Island Drive. I think that's very well worth it. And speaking of that, we still have hot spots. I would like to particularly bring your attention to the one that just happened down my street on Yacht Drive this day, 2 days ago. We still have very, very bad drainage problems. And Holly Street is another one. I would also like for you to look for that in your efforts to clean up the town. And as our town manager, David Kelly, said, I know you're doing better, but it still is not worth it. It still has to have a lot of work done. Did we hire 2 department heads for this past year for the 2 that left? I haven't seen anything about that. But I do want to thank you for your efforts. And I know they've been very time-consuming, but they're certainly beginning to pay off. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castle.
Roseanne Fortner.
Roseanne Fortner, 113 Paulus Circle, speaking for the Beach Preservation Society. What a busy year this is for everybody already. Here are some things we'd like to report on behalf of beach preservation. Our 20th annual fundraiser is in the works. The theme, Around the World in Fine Value Wines, will have us tasting 12 wines selected by local wine shops for their great qualities and their value. Join us, please, on April 6th from noon to 2:30 at Island Way. I have tickets with me for members right now, and others can purchase tickets starting March 15th if we have any left. This is another good reason to become a member of the Beach Preservation Society. Our fundraiser includes not just fine wines, but also an auction of fine goods and services, totaling already thousands of dollars in contributions. I brought a few examples over here that you can take a look at before you leave this evening to see what kinds of wonderful things are available for your bidding. Number 2 on our list is that some bike racks are missing or destroyed and need replacement. Please let us know if you would like to sponsor a new one. We have currently the need for 5 more replacements, and there's information on that in the newest newsletter, which came out today. Next is that our annual report has been developed, our first annual report, as a matter of fact, and we've delivered an outline of that to council. We'll be putting it online when some more illustrations have been added, and we'll let you know through our social media when that's available to see. Based on the kinds of things that we've been doing with beach preservation, we've requested that council approve modifications in our mission statement to include the focus areas that we now embrace. And we look forward to their feedback on that topic. Our input from the survey that many of you participated in last fall has us looking at new projects for coming years. We developed a starter list at this month's meeting. For our education and community engagement mission, we plan to organize some special guest lectures in the off-season, as you requested. We're developing an Earn a Patch program for young people to be a beach lover. And we'll take some of our kiosk information from the point and put it in additional locations. For enhancing the beach experience as part of that mission, we'll work with town departments on new rinsing facilities, education at the pier complex, and future beach access amenities. In the near term, we'll plan to organize a spring beach cleanup before everybody gets here for the season. Thank you to all of you for your continued support and participation in beach preservation activities. We look forward to working with you more for the beach that we all love. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill Millard? Did I finally pronounce it right? Okay, good.
Bill Millard, 110 Southeast 10th Street. I know that the council is getting ready to consider operations of the Oak Island Pier Complex, and I would like to encourage, especially in the restaurant, as you're considering that all things, other things being equal, that consideration be given preference to people who are local, like Austin Alfonso or Tari Swain. These are people that not only provide us a good business and food, but they live in our community and care about our community. I know that Austin, for instance, having gone through the fire, stayed with us and built back Kai Joe's. I'm not sure which was harder for me, going without the Barbie Bridge or going without Kai Joe's for a couple of months, you know. So we need people who are committed to our community operating with us, and I think that will be a great help as we look at that in the Pier Complex. So I hope that preferential treatment be given to people who are local if all other things are equal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Defio, and he had passed out his comments. I'm going to pass them around. I think he's here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Mike Defio. I live at 902 West Yacht. I have a proposal, sort of a request to the town council. We should consider the recent development of the Dollar General store an example of the changing demographics of Oak Island. While it may be good for the tax base, it does present a problem for our culture. Most residents and tourists love the laid-back beach and family-oriented atmosphere in the unique small businesses that Oak Island offers. However, it is apparent that we are becoming more attractive to big business. And by big business, I mean the Dollar Generals, the TGIFs, and the McDonald's, etc. And if nothing changes, we could easily see a rash of big businesses scooping up open commercial lots and existing businesses to bring their big box stores to the island. But this can be avoided. I ask the council to consider directing the appropriate town staff to modify the UDO's zoning requirements and table of uses in a manner that would restrict the development of big box stores to the mainland commercial districts. In this way, we can benefit from having big box stores nearby without taking away from the Oak Island we love. And for those who say it can't be done, we already have a precedent. The UDO, through zoning requirements and tables of usage, restricts sexually oriented businesses to an industrial district on the mainland. It's not much of a leap to restrict other types of businesses to commercial districts on the mainland. And I really hope you see the merit in this request. It really is nothing more than putting into action what many of us has been saying we need to do. And as always, I am more than willing to work with you and town staff to make this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
That's all I have signed up.
All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to the council reports. And I'll start with you. Oh, what did I skip? Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Council needs a break.
No, we don't need it.
Call the meeting back to order. Thank you for staying. And we'll move on to the council reports. And I'm going to start with Councilman Reinkoff.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just a couple things. We were talking about the Warrior Ride, Bob Racine, who passed away. It was a great loss to our town. It was a great loss for all the veterans. He represented them well. They are going to do a memorial ride Saturday to Veterans Park, and they're wanting everybody to come out. If you can make it, it'd be a great honor to honor him. The second thing is tomorrow, the mayor, Mr. Kelly, and myself make another trip to Raleigh, talk to our representatives up there, and still ask them for money for our beaches. So cross your fingers. Another one of our trips where I hope everything works out to the best. That's it.
Thank you.
I will echo what Jeff said about Bob Racine. He was a very dedicated man and believed very, very much in supporting the veterans. And anything you could do to show support for him would be terrific. Thank you.
And Mayor, as a member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Mary Ann Brewer is going to be really missed. If the door was open or an event going on, Mary Ann was there, and she could be depended upon to be there. We miss her, and she's going to be missed by everybody. Thank you.
I second what my council members have said. They were some good citizens.
Just briefly by way of putting in context the last year, so a year's gone by quickly. But I'm very pleased that we were able to pass a strategic plan. It has 3 elements. We've made progress on all 3 elements. We passed 2 tree ordinances. We're getting closer to a beach renourishment plan, hopefully. And tonight we're considering ordinance enforcement in the right-of-way. The pier, I believe, will move forward tonight when we select vendors. And paid parking, we're on the threshold of that decision under our goal of economic sustainability. So in a year, we've made progress.
Awesome. And I have nothing to report other than what Jeff said, and I will miss Ms. Brewer. She was up front. She told you just what she thought, and you knew what you stood with her at every minute, whether you agreed or didn't. Miss Mary was always there, and I miss her. All right, with that said, we will move on to the consent agenda, and since there was no adjustments, I'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Committee appointments. First one up is the Beach Preservation Fund Advisory Board. There is one term ending in September 2021. We have two applicants. The first applicant is Terrence Dunn. Show of hands, please. The second applicant is Karen Lynn. Okay, thank you.
And could I just note for the record that this was the application you had considered last month?
Correct.
So really, you're just confirming her appointment from last month.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, for that clarification. The second committee appointment is for the Par 3 Course Advisory Board. There is one term for a resident not in South Harbor, ending in January 2020. We have one applicant, and that is John Falk. Show of hands, please. All right, Constable Bach, I believe you wanted the floor.
I would like to acknowledge Mr. Falk's service. I served with him on the Par 3 committee, and he was a passionate advocate.
Okay, number 3 is Parks and Recs Advisory Board, one unexpired term ending in March 2020. We have two applicants, and the first one is Bill Kraft. Show of hands, please. All right, well then that's the majority, right, Lisa?
Yes, and I just wanted to indicate, I just found out today that there will be another vacancy on that board.
Okay.
So we'll advertise for that for next month.
So Sarah Haas may be, okay. Oh, right. Administrative reports. Starting with you, Mr. Kelly.
Yes, ma'am. As you go back to look at Milton Park, you can see that we've broken ground on the splash pad today. We're also getting ready to start working on the pump house. The relocation of the softball field has started. We're working with vendors for the installation and the purchase of the amphitheater, ball field lights, and tennis court, and pickleball lighting. So that's projects that we're still working on. The pier construction continues. There is some progress being made. The weather has sort of limited them on driving the pilings and being able to get out there into the ocean to drive them. 604 Ocean Drive, some property that we bought for a parking lot, has been surveyed, and we're getting ready to apply for the stormwater permit for that so we can get that parking lot opened up this summer. East Oak Island Drive and 11th Street, the DOT and the town sort of co-partnered on that project. You approved some money for us to go ahead and do that. So that project will be started next week. Mardi Gras is on March 9th. We had two bids that came in last week. One was for the ADA ramp on 10th Place East. We didn't receive enough bids, so we'll re-advertise that and open it up next week. And also for the bids for the paving, we have to advertise that again. The paving, the state has a lot of contracts out due to the last hurricane. They're still doing a lot of work on, so most of the contractors are doing the bigger projects. But we will have hopefully enough bids to go ahead and open that next week as well. I have appointed W.L. Ingram as the Chief of Police for the town of Oak Island. And over this time that we've been able to watch him to see what kind of things have happened, we've seen a lot of positive changes in the department and in the community. And Speedy, that's the way we address him, as Speedy. It was a family thing. It's not because he speeds, but Speedy. So feel more than welcome to come see him anytime over the police station, or stop any officer that he has and talk to him about community and anything that you'd like to. And that's it at this time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Any questions for David, amongst council? Attorney Eads, do you have any? All right, moving on to the old business section of our agenda. And first up on our old business is, guess what? Paid parking. Consideration of proposals for paid parking and management services.
I have some questions for Mr. Hatton.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me how much 1 penny on the tax rate generates?
On how much of value house? Or are you just talking total?
Or just 1 penny on the tax
On a
rate?
$250,000 home, a penny increase would generate approximately $25.
So it would cost somebody $25 extra if we raise the tax rate by 1 penny if they had a $250,000 house?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much overall total would 1 penny generate for the town
To the town, would be
on our tax base?
a penny increase would be approximately $266,000 to $267,000 at this time. Please keep in mind that we have a reval coming this year also, so that'll change somewhat.
So 2 cent would double.
So 2 cent would double it and make about what the parking?
$50.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to state anything else? Anybody, any questions? All right.
I just want to
comments
make a
for-
statement. I'd much rather have another tax increase than I'd have to have pay parking.
Any discussion on the paid parking?
I just personally think we put enough on the taxpayers here in the island, and everybody needs to contribute for the beach.
Well, I think there's a rationale beyond the money. Obviously, you know, we're talking either bid $1 million over 3 years, but the real issue is traffic management, public safety, and private property rights, because as we grow and as there are more visitors and more people parking indiscriminately, it's going to become a major issue. And, you know, we've reached this point of decision several times, and I think hopefully tonight we're going to make a decision.
I got one question, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
Brian? Yes, sir. If we decide to go with paid parking, can this money be completely designated for beach?
I think you could earmark it to the beach fund, yes.
Okay.
Earmark it.
The vast majority of the parking at or near the beach access, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
Any more discussion or questions?
Patton's got a question for you.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion regarding the beach parking?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Madam Mayor, you?
I'd like to make a motion that we increase the tax rate by 2 cents to cover the, to cover the revenues that they think that we can generate from pay parking.
Any second from Ms. Councilman Bear's proposal? Second? All in favor? Skip, what?
Mayor, you can only set a tax rate once a year. So you cannot change tax rate mid-year. I mean, you can consider that in June when you're setting next year's tax rate, but this year's tax rate's
Can
already
she
set.
rephrase her a motion and state it in June? We said we add 2 cents or no?
I don't know that I would advise doing that now, just
Okay.
because you don't know what the budget's gonna be.
So it's inappropriate motion.
And we don't know
Well,
what
it's
the
not-
tax.
it's not
the
inappropriate.
and we don't know what the reval's gonna do.
I wouldn't
as
say it's
well.
inappropriate, but to Lisa's point, you'd be better suited, it wouldn't take effect anyway until next fiscal year. So you'd be better suited if that's the case. You gain nothing by making the motion now. If you set it now, you lose the opportunity to look at what you may need at the end of the fiscal year, is what I
Right,
believe
okay.
states.
All right.
I got it, and we may not need that with the reval anyway.
So, she need to withdraw that motion since we have a second? Would you
I
like to
withdraw
that?
my motion.
All right.
Charlie.
Is there any more discussion on paid parking? Councilman Bach, do you have something?
I've made my statement. I think it's inevitable and necessary for safety.
Waiting for a motion.
I need a motion.
Sorry, I thought you asked for further discussion.
Okay, discussion, and you're done with your discussion, everybody? Is there any motion?
Fine, I move that we accept North Carolina parking proposal.
Second.
All in favor? All right, all opposed? Okay, there you go.
John, can you amend your motion to make sure the money goes straight to beach?
Yes, but beach, meaning beach improvement and sand, so physical structures used on the beach, yes. I'll admit it that the money is earmarked and restricted to beach development.
We'll need a second.
I'll amend my second, of course.
All in favor? We need to vote again. All in favor to the amended motion? Let me see your hands. Good. All opposed? I guess I didn't change your mind, so, okay.
Madam Mayor, the acceptance of the proposal is the first step. The second step would be to come up with a contract with the responder. I'm assuming council, or at least 3 of you, are directing staff to come up with a contract to be approved.
And I don't know, the council want to consider less timing on that contract, or will you deal with that later?
Consider what?
Yearly, 2 years, 3 years, or we have, is that when you write the contract, do we have time to negotiate that?
I can do it, whatever, that's something we can change at the meeting, but if there is a consensus as to the amount of years you would like to at least propose initially, I believe that particular vendor requested, or ideally said 3. Didn't sound like that was a non-starter though, so if you have a number in mind, you want to direct us now, we can put it in there. If not, we can discuss it at the next meeting.
I think 3 is a comfortable number. More importantly, to me, given the quality of both proposals, that these guarantees which were given are ironclad and in writing and enforceable for the duration of the contract.
Yes, sir.
Including the cap, if we should go over the target.
Councilman Bell? You good with the 3 years?
It's
I
not
guess so.
binding to say it now, this is just an informal
Right.
discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if we're thinking 3 years, I can start with that, and if that's not what you want, when you vote on it, then that'd be the time to address it.
Any comments? So I'm guessing the 3 years is the consensus? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Okay, now moving on to number 2 in old business, consideration for policy of enforcement of the right-of-way ordinance violations. This is another complicated, intense issue we have looked at for 2 years. Do we need Jake or Steve at the podium for any of your questions? Council.
Yes, I'd just like to have whichever one of you would like to come up and answer a question for me.
Who wants to be on the hot seat?
All right, now keep this simple for an old country boy, okay? Now, you got a highway, you got a town street, not DOT, but ours. Where do you measure from for the right-of-way?
There's a few different ways to do it. Typically, road right-of-way widths are 60 feet. That means
What now?
60 feet from one side to the other. Typically, that's the entire width of the road right-of-way. 20 feet is typically the length of the actual road itself, which means from the edge of the pavement on one side, you have 20 feet. Edge of the pavement on the other side of the road, 20 feet. 20, 20, 20, 60 feet total road right-of-way. So the easiest way is from the edge of the pavement, 20 feet out. That's a good indicator as to where the front property line is.
The easiest way, Charlie, is by your property stakes.
Yes, that's always the best. If you find the property stakes, that is the best thing to go with. There's also, infrastructure points out there as well, manholes, things like that, and those are the things that we install in the right-of-way. So if you see an infrastructure point out there, a fire hydrant, something like that, it's a good bet that's in the right-of-way, and you need to be looking houseward side of that.
So in other words, if I lived on 23rd Street, my front yard, the right-of-way would come into my front yard 20 feet?
I wouldn't phrase it like the right-of-way would come into your front yard, because your front yard is your front yard, and the right-of-way is the right-of-way. One is town property, the other is private property.
On 23rd Street, it's pretty easily marked. If it's 23rd and Yacht, on 23rd Street side is a water meter, and on the Yacht Drive side is the fire hydrant. So I'm pretty sure that that's, I'm pretty sure that that's where my property stakes are.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
No more questions?
Well, I have some questions, but I please don't get up again. It's well, I guess you should technically. All right, I didn't mean to do that to you. So I'm on page 57. I'm on the right-of-way prioritization policy, which is your document.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, as you know, I've said this many times that I support right-of-way enforcement. I think it's a goal that's necessary, but one that is limited and highly targeted to obstructions which constitute a safety hazard or denial of access to public land and waterways, or as the third one here, I'm fine with the unreasonably obstruct the right-of-way. But 4, other violations seems a little vague, a little too elastic. And then underneath the continuing, the criteria, is your 4th bullet, do I take that to mean that you're going to be measuring 10 feet from the edge of these from the roadways?
From the edge of the pavement. When we get started, we'll probably measure a few times, but after a while, I think we'll be pretty good at determining that.
I'm more comfortable, as I say, speaking only for myself at this point, with targeted enforcement that is about safety and is about public access. I think once we get beyond that, we entertain conflicts we don't need. We expend time, resource, manpower that will not be productive. I think we should start with safety and denial of access and see how that goes. And I'm just concerned that some of the language here is a little too elastic.
I agree about the prioritization of the ones right by the edge of the road that create a safety hazard or a visual barrier or obstruction.
Right, especially fixed things that are in the road right-of-way that shouldn't be there. But it's the other that troubles me, and also all this measuring, which I think is going to cause some conflict. But thank you for answering.
Any more discussion?
I can say I'm only going to vote for this if it's what we previously discussed when we had our discussion, because this is varied away from that. So if we want to go back and have that discussion again, so everybody's on the same page, that's fine. But if we want to clarify that it's going to be what we originally discussed, then I'll vote for it tonight.
Who wants to clarify what you originally discussed? Councilman Weinkauf. Is there?
I figured that.
We've discussed
we've
about
had
40
so many-
different
yes.
ways.
Our last,
We've discussed it 100 different ways.
but we had a complete understanding in our last discussion.
And since I'm going to be the one I just noticed having to sign this, thank you for getting clarification, Councilman Weinkauf.
So we've been working on this for a while. We've come up with 7 foot from edge of pavement, 10 foot of edge of pavement, no measurements or whatever we wanted to do. This was going to be allowed, that was not going to be allowed. We came back to the safety issues. Charlie wanted to make sure the police officers could pull off the road, open the cars without getting run over and those kind of things. So that's what we looked at, and that's where the 10 foot of edge of pavement came in, was when y'all discussed that during those meetings. The safety issues, which Councilman Bach addressed a minute ago, that was one of the main concerns, and that was going to be our first priority to go back and look at. If somebody has a boulder or post and rope or whatever they have in the right of way that could create a safety hazard, those will be the first ones that we go through and start to address. The second thing that when we were asked to enforce the ordinance says nothing's within the right of way. So at some point, either we're going to need to change the ordinance where things are allowed to be in the right of way, or at some point we're not going to have things in the right of way. Staff understands that things have been put there over the years. We've all looked at it. We've asked the attorney to evaluate things, and that's why it's taken so long for us to try to come to a conclusion on what we want to do.
Not because you asked the attorney to look at it.
No, because the ordinance has
All that.
said for many, 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 many years, nothing,
I'm saying
nothing.
the minutes are going to say,
yes, I know.
We asked the attorney to look at it, and that's why it took so long.
I did it on purpose.
All where you place the comma.
True.
So, and that was at the retreat. So we all talked about that. We were given direction to start looking at the first round of enforcement was for safety hazards. So we took it as what we were looking at was trying to look at doing the policy. Some of the people, some of it was said that we should maybe leave some of the stuff in the right of way that people have put over the years, some decorative things and those kind of items. That's up for y'all to tell us, leave it.
I seem to recall there was a specific foot number, and I want to say it was 8 foot. Is that what you were referring to, Councilman Weinkauf?
Well, I think the discussion was that somebody's got a bush that's been there for years and years and years, and it's 8 foot off the edge of the road, and then we're going to come and say, hey, you got to tear your bush up. I mean, that was sort of, we were saying that sort of grandfather.
Okay, so we want nothing is allowed in the right-of-way within 8 foot. If it's a bush, it can stay there.
If we were.
But if the bush, but if the bush has been there for a long time, so now we've got to determine how long this bush has been there.
Well, the point is, if we were going to enforce these rules, they should have been enforced from the get-go instead of letting them just slide.
Right, and I
And
agree
they've
with
let them
that.
slide for years, and
I
now
agree with that.
we're dealt with this situation.
I think,
We're gonna have to be the bad guys, that's what you're saying.
well,
Because we're gonna have to tell them,
It
But
the
I
can
think-
got kicked down the.
I think let me just say this, because everyone has wrestled with this, and including, especially the staff. So I think that there's a fair amount of fidelity here to what I perceive to be the consensus of council. So at one point, we were on the threshold of adopting something at the 8-foot level, and Councilman Blaylock said that's insufficient for the police, so now it's 10. We did have a longer abatement period, I believe, and the discussion has been shortened. I think that's probably something we should revisit. And other than that, I think the implication here is if you're beyond 10 feet and it's vegetative and it's less than 4 feet in height, it's okay. It's essentially going to be accepted.
If I may, and if you recall, I came to the workshop and I assisted in the drafting of this policy, probably. So if anyone's upset with the policy language, that's on me. But as I recall, the workshop focus was we can't recreate history. All this stuff's been in there a long time. But what we should be looking at are safety issues and ingress-egress issues. Yes. And the policy's designed to prioritize enforcement with that in mind. So there was no, the policy's not designed to say, okay, we're going to go out there with shovels and spades and start ripping up landscaping, but to the extent we have to prioritize this because it is a town-wide historical issue, let's look at the things that are most important to the public: ingress and egress and safety.
And water access.
That would be, ingress, egress, access, to me, I'm saying, that means the same.
I like the phrasing of public, access for the public to things that are public, but, all right, so.
Safety and access.
With that, yes, with that clarification, what about the abatement period? Why was that shortened? Why was that?
What y'all gave us was you told us to come back with something that we would start to go around town, start looking at stuff that was in the right-of-ways. That was one of these criteria. That first we brought back, it was going to be 2 months. And then we said, well, the season's coming, we can't get started until after the season. We'll start in a 6-month time frame, and then we laid out how we were going to do it. We didn't say that we're going to have everything done in 1 year, or we're going to give somebody 1 year. That's not the intent of what this was. We first have to go out and identify everything before we even get started on it.
Okay, so that actually elongates that process. So from identification to notification, then the abatement clock kicks in. Is that what you're saying?
And then we also have a thing that we have laid out for us to do a town hall meeting. That would be an educational process to get the words out. We're not going out here and just starting tomorrow to go out. That's why we're not starting even until after the summer's over to start going out and looking. Because we know it is going to be a process to let everybody know what the intent is.
So the 10 feet still stands?
Yeah.
The ordinance right now doesn't say anything about 10 feet.
The ordinance says anything in the right of way.
So if you'd like to change, if you'd like to put something in the ordinances or whatever you'd like to change, then that would make it easier for us to be able to enforce.
So what I ought to do is go home right now real fast and plant a whole bunch of bushes. I go back to the same thing. Nothing in 10 feet, period.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Some 49 years ago, in the summer of 1969, we put a man on the moon. Now, this council should be able to settle this right-of-way thing. It's killing me. Let's use some of our intelligence. Let's get this thing settled and done with tonight.
Nothing went in 10 feet.
I think there's
Make a motion, Council.
No, I do not.
Let me just say this. There's ordinances that look pretty and ordinances and policies that are workable. This is a workable policy, given where we are.
10 feet's reasonable is what you're saying.
And nothing in here says it's automatic, it says that's gonna be a factor that they're gonna look at.
Right, that would just be part of the prioritization.
All right, do you need a motion to accept this prioritization policy?
Would like it.
We would like you to
Yes.
pass it.
Madam Mayor, I would like
It's
to
on
make a
page- wait a minute,
motion
it's on page
that we
61,
57.
57.
accept, implement, whatever the wording is.
Adopt.
Adopt would be good. This right-of-way prioritization policy that has gone through our town attorney, gone through council, gone through our development services department.
I'll second that since I'm a fan of the Gemini program, so.
So it's 10 feet, right?
Just vote.
Charlie, 10?
Just vote, Charlie.
10
Okay, the
feet.
eagle has landed, all right?
Hey, does anyone need her to clarify that motion before we call for a vote or a
Adopt the
second?
policy.
How about a second, and then we'll clarify it?
Second.
All right, does everybody understand the motion? All right, all in favor of Councilman Bell's motion?
Amen.
All opposed? Thank you. All right. 4 to 1, Lisa, in case you missed that. All right, moving along to new business. New business number 1 is the consideration of proposals received for the operations of the Oak Island Pier Complex.
Madam Mayor, since this was published, the Pesky Pelican withdrew their original proposal. They did come back and want to amend their proposal, but I believe you have to take action on what's in front of you first, since that what the original proposal was.
Correct.
We've also had some additional people come in and make proposals, but we have not accepted any of those until after action. Whatever you decide on this first stuff is given.
Is there any discussion regarding the pier complex?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me say I'm disappointed there are no bids for 801, and no bids to consolidate management across the other 3 sites. Having said that, the proposal that I like is KJO's proposal because it is local, it is experienced, and they're willing to take on 2 of the 4 sites that we have. And I like their concept for the retail space. I think that will work with beachgoers, and the restaurant will attract a different clientele. So that makes eminent good sense to me, and that's the proposal that I like.
Okay, any further discussion on any of it?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think I agree, Ruby's by the Sea, which is the name they're going by. I think there'll be negotiation about the retail space, that part of it, for the little cafe they want to do.
And his proposal, I mean, he shows both of them on his proposal.
Yeah.
So everything will be discussed during the lease agreement.
I think the second process is we need to go ahead and proceed with the town running the pier operation. And all money and proceeds from that go for maintenance of the pier and the restaurant and for the beach nourishment.
801.
Yeah, and then 801, we had a email from a person willing to negotiate running 801. I think we need
As a private club.
well, I think we need to listen and see what they're willing to offer and see if it's worth the while of the town before we disregard it.
Can we also look at the town renting it out as an event center?
Absolutely.
Rather than it being a private club?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, go back
Yeah,
to the
I
drawing
mean, since the
board with
person-
801?
Yeah, since the
Okay.
person put that out there, I think we need to at least hear them and see what they
There's
have
another
to.
person that's called about it, and we didn't allow anybody else to submit until tonight.
Okay.
So can we put out bids again for 801?
Just for 801.
Just for 801? You do whatever
Okay.
you- But remember, the more we stall, the less likely we're gonna have any revenue from it.
But I just think it needs to be a very, very short process out there, middle of March.
We have the documents ready, so,
And
yeah.
let's
Fine.
move on from there.
I'm ready.
But I think,
801,
Because we've already had people who are actually contacting us about renting
Yes, that's what I'm
renting
saying.
that building. So as long as it sits there empty, we're not,
I
I
say the
mean,
middle
can
of
we
March.
discuss that tonight? Can we vote on that tonight? Are you ready?
Whatever you want to do.
801's ready to go.
All right, well, let's do this first.
We're just waiting on the
What are we deciding on the restaurant? It's the only option.
I've indicated a preference. We haven't
I
decided
did
anything.
too, Ruby by the Sea.
What?
I
Somebody
agree.
make a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the negotiate the contract with Ruby by the Sea, Austin Afonso, to run the restaurant area and the cafe area in the
Retail
retail
space.
space.
I'd second that motion.
All in favor of the restaurant rates? Okay. Now, what about the pier operations? I think we need a direction or a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we go ahead and proceed with hiring the staff person to oversee that area.
Second.
All in favor?
Madam Mayor? I think it was all in favor.
Was it all in favor? I'm sorry.
No, Madam Mayor.
All opposed?
I've been consistently opposed to us running anything, including a tackle shop.
So we have 4 for and 1 against.
Correct.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we start the process of getting the equipment needed to open the pier house up and the pier for, I think, April 1.
Oh, okay, the tax, yes, sir. That's what we were shooting for.
Is that a motion to rebid?
No.
No.
Just to open the pier house.
To move forward. is
Move forward.
Basically. That's a motion.
That's a motion.
I'd like to have a motion for this one.
Clarification, Madam Mayor, if you get it seconded.
Go ahead.
So are we going to simultaneously open and rebid? Or
No, we're not rebid the pier house.
Well,
Not the
we
pier,
don't-
I'm sorry, 801.
801, yes,
We are going to rebid.
yes. This is for the pier house.
And his motion is to operate the
Operate the pier house, get the equipment we need, and get ready for our April 1 opening.
I second that.
Second, all in favor of that motion? All opposed? Got you. All right, now, 801, do you need a motion for that to rebid, or does just
Rebid or
consensus?
just to,
We just need you to tell us.
Okay,
consensus
rebid
to-
it, and then we'll open it up to everyone and have an answer by
March,
March.
middle of March. What's the middle of March? 15th? What day is that on? That's a Friday.
and Madam Mayor,
We'll have a special meeting, or what do you
did
want
you do
By
a
March 12th.
spreadsheet or something
March 11th.
about the monies that the town could actually,
We've prepared several different things over the period of time, but it would be up to, after we get through the bids, if the council decides that we take one of the bids and it's a moot point, if they decide that this town would run it, there are ways to do that, and we can show that.
Madam Mayor, I'd like us to be able to have the bids in here by March 11th. That'll be ready for our March 12th council meeting.
Well, that doesn't give you much time to look at it before so maybe before March.
Well, hey, they've already people interested if they want it.
I'm talking about, it doesn't give you much time to look at them as council.
Oh, sure it does.
All right, holy cow, okay. Lisa, did you get all that?
I think I did.
So let's recap, just for my own sake.
okay,
Okay.
The restaurant was agreed upon
the restaurant and the retail.
unanimously, and the retail space for Ruby's by the Sea.
Yes.
The pier was agreed upon from 4 to 1 for the town to operate and run the pier house and the bait shop, correct? And to do whatever's necessary to get it started.
Yes.
And now we're going to rebid 801 until March the 11th, and then it'll be brought back to council in March, and we'll make a decision at that point. Is that right? Everybody got that? Public understand all that? Okay, all right, moving on.
Okay,
Number 2 in new business, consideration of proposals for paving, information to be provided at the meeting as bids were not due until after the agenda package was printed.
That was one of the ones that we said we didn't receive enough, so it'll be next Friday.
Okay, so that, we don't need to make a decision on that tonight.
we can table that until next meeting.
I'm gonna have to see what the contractors turn in, but hopefully so.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I think we all need to look at our calendars. Since we went with this paid parking, we have a lot of decisions we have to make as far as right-of-way parking and other details. And then we look at a day we can sit and do a workshop to discuss these and work them out.
Public meeting workshop, open to the public, and we'll discuss the questions that David and staff is asking us for
Yes.
logistics to work for the paid parking. All right.
Look at your
Have
calendars.
something in mind, Jeff?
I don't.
Dave? Well, sooner than later.
Yes.
Yes, please.
David's freaking out over there.
How about the 27th?
February.
Is
that too soon?
That's next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, I won't be here.
That's a good time to do it.
Charlie don't do the Wednesdays.
What?
Let's do Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
No, he said.
No, I can't.
Jeff said he can't be here. I was on.
How about Thursday?
Thursday's the last day of, for the Citizens Academy.
How about March
dinner.
5th? Tuesday, March 5th, can we do that?
Tuesday, March 5th.
Can you make it late in the afternoon?
Yeah.
I mean, like late, like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Hold on.
Whatever y'all want to
Yeah,
do.
okay. I got a dentist appointment, but that's at 11.
What date are we talking?
So that's the 5th?
Yeah, can we do, we'll do it, get
The 5th? Is that what you said, the 5th?
Do it late, and that way it gives the public time to get off work, if they want to be here and join in, and
So what
That'll
time?
just make your staff have to come to
About
work
6.
late.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, okay.
You're gonna be here anyway.
So we're
And they-
looking at a public workshop regarding the paid parking issue. I mean,
Yeah, the issue-
logistics.
Yes.
But now, aren't we gonna have to make some decisions before we actually have this open meeting for the public?
Well, you
I mean,
have
aren't-
the questions we need to
Okay.
answer in our own vetting process to
Right.
bring
Okay.
to the table.
Yeah.
All right.
May I suggest that since I know administration is already gathering questions, and I'm sure they would welcome other questions from us, that we send them to the firm we've contracted with to get their advice, so we can kind of ground our discussion.
Yes, sir.
They're still here. We would like to invite them to that meeting.
Right, but we need to know what
They're writing.
we need to know what their responses are before we get there.
And if the public has any question, I feel like that they should send them to Lisa and we can add them in our
Yes.
process.
Got it.
Madam Mayor,
No adjournment yet.
I'd like to make
Go.
I need,
a motion.
Yes,
Hey.
entertain a motion.
from my perspective, 2-sentence closed session again.
Oh, my God.
Sorry.
Make the motion.
Madam Mayor, I need to make a motion to go into closed session per the town attorney's direction,
Again, to discuss potential litigation.
again, to discuss potential litigation.
That's separate than earlier
And he
litigation.
promised 2 minutes.
Oh, that's ours.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion to go in closed session. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Things that are not in that.
I call the meeting back to order and also state that there was no action taken in the first closed session or the second. And
Madam
now,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
second, please. All in favor? Thank you.